All right, welcome back. We're episode 23 of the Frenemies Fantasy Football Podcast. We're going to be talking about, this is a split recording, so we're going to talk draft here first, and then we're going to throw out a little bone to the listeners. We're going to break down Avengers Endgame. So spoiler alert, don't click on this, the next podcast if you haven't seen the movie. But you know what, Sean, it's been a while since the band has been back together.
It has.
I mean, what has everyone been up to? You've heard me and Sean in the last 2 episodes. That's covering like 2 months. But the stranger sitting to my right.
Guys, all our hard work is paid off.
Ryan's back.
Thanks to our podcast, I now have a girlfriend.
This podcast got Ryan a girlfriend.
At least that's how he tells the story.
Single-handedly.
Not his muscles.
Some people are like, yo, it's a little controversial to date a fangirl. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's not like that. Yeah, she's a fangirl. Air quoting. You can't see it,
You
but I'm air
can't see the air quotes. We're not videoing this
Yeah,
one.
she's a fangirl, but I knew her before I rose to fame. So basically, you know, she just wants just a piece of the fame and the fortune. And she's like hopping on the bandwagon before we, because we're already really famous, but we're not like really, really, really famous. But it's clear that we're heading that way. So she just couldn't
You're
resist.
pretty much rock star status. And she wanted it. Yeah.
I sent her these videos and she was like, that's the one I want.
Yes.
So,
that's what's up.
The moral of the story is, nerds out there,
Nerds out there. Thank you.
Nerds out there.
you live your dreams and you follow your dreams and you'll get a hot girlfriend.
That's one nerd to another nerd. Listen up. All right. Well, let's talk about our overall thoughts of the draft. All right. If you were not hiding underneath a rock, we had our 2019 NFL draft happen in
big weekend.
Nashville, Tennessee. Hilarious thing, you heard about the bachelorette parties that were very mad that the NFL draft was going on at the same time. It's like, who planned yours? So listen to Golick and Wingo, and they were talking about it. Like,
oh, really?
On the news, bachelorette parties were getting mad locally there. It's like, your fault. We've been knowing this for like 2 years. But anyways, let's go back to overall thoughts of the actual draft. Sean, Ryan, I know where you guys are going. Sean, take it away.
So we're Dolphins fans, me and Ryan.
What?
And I know this probably doesn't have a huge fantasy implication, but the big thing that happened for us was Josh Rosen. So,
Yeah.
Josh, if you don't know who Josh Rosen is, he was the Arizona Cardinals quarterback last year. He
I
was
wanted him.
drafted 10th overall.
I wanted him last year.
Ryan wanted him. I was kind of in between whether he was Aaron Rodgers or Jay Cutler, and I'm not sure I'm any different right now. I'm still holding out to see what he's going to be.
We only got 1 year to judge.
Yeah, I don't think it's fair to judge him on what happened in Arizona. It was, a historically bad team.
It was a debacle.
Yeah, they fired the coach in 1 year, whether that was fair or not, but it was a pretty big demise for the Arizona Cardinals last year, as I know Morgan, in our fantasy league knows. It was a rough year. Huh. So, but back to the trade, just for what we paid for him, there's no downside here. Like,
yeah, second round pick in this previous draft of 2019, and then a 2020 fifth
round pick, which
and in Arizona is paid almost all of his salary.
That's the big part to me. That was like the thing that this is a win-win. If worse comes to worse and he sucks and gets us high in the draft next year, then we'll draft a Tua or we'll draft a Fromm or whatever, because that draft class is looking better than this last one. And we're not on the hook for a lot of money because I think it was something like 70 to 80% of it's already paid by Arizona.
It's basically, you can say, all right, your backup money.
Yeah, he's getting like $2 or $3 million over the next 3 years. So,
well, first we got to get our 5 wins from Fitzmagic.
Yeah, well, I don't know. With Rosen going in, some people think you guys might cut Fitzmagic. Yeah,
Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Ryan Fitzpatrick might get cut because he might go in there and say, I want to, and I want to compete for the job, but you guys have to start Rosen this year. Miami has to start to evaluate him so they can know if they got to go in that draft and pick someone up, or if they got their guy that they want to move for the next couple of years as the premier QB of Miami.
I have to say I'm a little happier now that our starting quarterback isn't the guy who was on headlines for saying that the birthday cake was to blame for his weight gain.
Did you hear about this story?
No. What?
Oh my gosh, yeah. So Ryan Fitzpatrick was, of the Bucks and of 10 other teams, Fitzmagic, and he came into training camp apparently with a little more of a belly than he had before, and so the media asked him about it, and he said he's got, I guess, a quite a few kids and was talking about the months and how, the month of March or the month of February is like a big birthday month. So there's lots of birthday cake. And so
Do you want to hear the headline? Dolphins Ryan Fitzpatrick blames eating birthday cake for off-season weight gain.
that's what came across my ticker. I sent it to Ryan and I was like, yep, this is about as exciting as it gets for Dolphins right now in the
This is the type
offseason.
of news when you get when you were tanking.
Yeah, so
man.
that's the good news is I feel like there's something worth watching this year. Bringing it back to fantasy, I don't think it's going to have too much of an impact. I don't think there was many people you were going to draft on Miami to begin with. There's not much after the draft you're gonna deal with. So Kenyon Drake is probably the one piece that will be drafted, and I don't think it really makes much of a difference between
Right.
Rosen and Fitzpatrick. We're gonna just call him
Fitzmagic. Rosen or Fitzmagic will
Yeah.
be kind of like guys you're picking up on the waiver wires if you're got a quarterback in a bye week or if that's something that you're streaming.
Yeah.
Keeping that QB option, he's not going to be your top 12 QB in the rankings, so he's hardly going to be in anyone's starting lineup.
Yeah. So, what about you, Chris? What was your
I just
takeaway?
want to know what Dave Gettleman, the GM of the Giants, was thinking.
I know.
Like everybody else in the football world, even actors and actresses and singers even called him out, saying what's going on. But to take Daniel Jones, 6th overall, when the Giants had like hardly any sacks last year, and they had guys sitting up there that they could pick value wise, it was a huge reach. And then hearing Gettleman in interviews later defending it, it's probably the funniest thing ever. Like I was
Yeah.
like, you're not giving any Giants fan any hope, like any faith of what you're doing, because you're not going to
maybe
see
in
him.
3 years we'll
Yeah,
get to
I mean,
him. And it's like, why'd you take him 6th overall? If
The
you're gonna get
6th
to this-
overall is probably going to sit this first year.
Yeah.
You know, and you could have had him with your, was it 17th pick? They had 2 picks. They traded up. They had 3 first-round picks. But, you know, it was between them and Oakland were like comics to me. But Oakland figured out the rest of the way. The Giants just didn't make any sense to me, as people weren't too impressed by Jones's tape coming out of college. So
Yeah, I mean, I think I heard his grade was an 80. And so just to compare that, I think you're looking at a 90 was Kyler Murray,
Right.
and Dwayne Haskins was around that 90. 80 basically, usually gets you into the 3rd round, not 6th overall.
yeah, especially
He
when
did what I do in fantasy.
there's only one QB taken ahead of him.
Yeah, he reached, that's for sure.
He's like, I have to have that guy, and I don't care what I gotta do to
Yeah,
get
it's
him.
like I'll take him many
Like
rounds
quarterback.
before because I'm just in love with that guy. But yeah, to me, it's not really fantasy relevant outside of Saquon Barkley owners. You're going to get a lot of carries.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of check down throws. Too.
I heard something funny with him because the comparisons they're making is he's basically Eli again. Like
Right.
he went to their camps and that's kind of what they're trying to get. And he kind of looks like him if you've ever seen
do
like
they
the
just
pictures
wanna,
next to him.
do they just want to turn back the clock on Eli?
That's kind of what it seems like. And then I heard somebody who said it perfectly. They said he looks like somebody who was cast to play Eli Manning in a movie.
Yep,
He's like a little younger, a little better looking.
That's pretty good. Yeah, I never heard of that one. That's pretty good. Hey, they can get 2 Super Bowls out of Daniel Jones, and they'll be happy.
Yeah.
he won't be a premier QB,
And I
but
will be
yeah,
shocked.
very much so. He'll have a very good defense around him.
Yeah.
But those were our thoughts on the draft. Initially, we're going to break down some position things that have fantasy value. But our party cue for I was like, okay, this is a question or cue. A party cue this week is going to be coming from Ryan. All right, he's got a little story to tell us. I mean, we want to give him some more airtime since he's missed a couple of episodes. So, Ryan, take it away with this party story that you have.
So, as you guys may or may not have learned in the last 5 minutes, I have a girlfriend now. But the real miracle is that I still have a girlfriend after our first week. Let's just say, I know some of you actually listen to this podcast. Chris's bowling story where he tripped with his bowling ball.
Oh, wow. Really?
What I did makes him look like a shining stud muffin still.
I've not heard the story yet, so I'm very interested.
So, yeah, so we're I think it was day 3 of officially dating. I'm in Harrisonburg, and I'm like, wow, she needs to go to work. I'm gonna do the manly thing, and I'm gonna take her to work. Even though there's not totally unnecessary, but I was like, baby, I'm gonna take you to work, and then I'll hang out in Luray, away from Harrisonburg, and then when you're ready, I'll take you back. And then it was one of these typical darn things that I always heard about, the legends, even just hearing other people's, little couple talk in the car, like, go this way, go that way. And I was like, so she was like, just listen to me, I'll take you where you need to go. And I was like, baby, don't worry about it. Just relax. I'll use the GPS. I'll get us there. You can just chill out. And she's like, no, you should. And then, we get on the road and she's like, you need to go right. And I was like, well, GPS says left. So I like slow down and I go to turn left. And I'm turning and there just appears right in the middle of the road a stop sign.
It just appears.
It just appears in the middle of the road, a stop sign. And I hit the stop sign. I smack it with my car and I run over it.
Oh my goodness.
Hit the stop sign. And I was like, well, dang, there goes my driving record. Just out the window, just like that. But it was a great little
I feel like you left out the best part of the story, though.
What happened then, dude?
No, it was before that. So he got this reckless driving, but the thing was, he hit the sign. No one was around. Nobody really saw it. Definitely not a cop didn't see it.
He called it himself.
So he decided, I'm going to do the moral thing. I'm going to call because I don't want, somebody to report it. And, you can get sent to jail if you do a hit and run. And I guess on a stop sign, that counts as a hit and run. So he did
I was thinking we were just going to have a nice little talk and I would pay for the sign and like, send me the bill, brother.
Like, dude, gives him reckless driving. He called it in.
Yeah.
I'm like, goodness gracious. You can fender bender somebody in the back, and potentially give them whiplash.
Must have been a bad day for the cop or something. Like, oh, I'm going to hit this guy. Or he didn't hit his quota and
it wasn't his best day.
No.
I could tell that much.
Well, you know what, man? Good for you. Good on you.
But the craziest part is that I'm still dating her. She was like, "There's a sign!" And I was like, "No!" And I hit it it was like I was probably going like 12 miles an hour. So it's like, but there was no stopping at that point. So and I was like, "Damn." This is crazy.
Oh boy.
So that's what Ryan's been up to. He was almost in jail.
So that's my third
just
day
for
of
love.
dating this girl who fell in love with me because of frenemies.
There we go.
I was really impressing her. And my mom was like, you need to learn how to drive with a hot girl in the car.
Well, we're going to go right over from that to some news and stories before we break down those impactful rookies, possible rookies in fantasy. The big news, Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
Talking about impact in fantasy
switching
and
gears
everything.
to a not so funny topic.
No, I mean, right off the bat.
That's just too much. We need to segue with something else.
Yeah, well, that was our next point there.
Okay.
So, but anyways, all seriousness here, Tyreek's actions, they warrant some sort of suspension, some discipline go in there, but the fantasy relevancy, which is what we podcast about. Sean, what do you see coming out of this? How will it impact owners or other players on that team?
So if you're in a situation where you have to keep him and you don't know what's going to happen,
listen up, Joe. In our league,
do not keep him. I think it's very unlikely that he plays for the Chiefs again, and it's almost equally as likely that he doesn't play football again. I mean, this is his second account. He was already that was his thing coming out of college.
One in college, and one in the pros.
Pregnant girlfriend. So now with having these two different accounts, I mean, people aren't going to give him the benefit of the doubt. There may be a team, we didn't think Kareem Hunt would, but he quickly got picked up. So it's possible. In my opinion, though, it's not going to be this year. Like the suspension will most likely be that of Kareem Hunt's or worse.
Now, I might have a selfish interest in this, but how does this affect Patrick Mahomes?
So it seems like the Chiefs knew this was coming. They did draft a few options.
The kid out
it's
of
definitely
Georgia.
going to affect him if that's what you're asking. I think it's maybe going to affect him to the point where I thought he would be, which is, maybe a top 5 quarterback this year. Everybody's kind of got him as the consensus number 1.
Yeah.
And,
you can't take out Kareem Hunt and Tyreek Hill from the mix and still have...
As a cursory look, people that don't, pay attention to every little detail of fantasy football, they may say, oh, last year was just amazing. He's going to do it again. But I would say even if he had Tyreek Hill, that was almost impossible to replicate.
Yeah, his first year was amazing.
So without him, he still is, he's
tier
everything
one
as
quarterback.
advertised Patrick Mahomes is. But like Ryan said, if you take away, two fantastic talents like that, there was a reason, that he was able to do what he was because Tyreek Hill was just always open down the field.
Yeah.
When you can get that type of separation, when you can, peel back the defense that far, it just opens everything up. So, I mean, there's potential for him to, take a real big slide down if Tyreek's not going to be there, which it looks like he won't. So, I think that's, a big thing to keep in mind when you're drafting. If you were kind of thinking, Patrick Mahomes was going to be that, staple of your team. I don't like drafting quarterbacks early anyways, but now even more so, I wouldn't go to Patrick Mahomes.
I think it'll still be a first-round ADP
That's
of
insane.
up there. I think I don't because the people ranking him
Yeah.
are still going to go because a lot of guys rank off numbers. So his numbers might slightly drop off, but because of his killer year last year, now see, I'm a keeper of his. I would love his ADP to drop,
Yeah.
right, to help me out a little bit. But
So-
I don't think it'll drop enough
That's what I
out
was
of
going
the
to ask
first
you.
round.
Where would you be comfortable keeping him in a draft?
I would. He's not going to sneak below a second round, I think, just because of the numbers game. Honestly, I think he should be further out of there because we have nothing outside of Kelsey. What a limping Sammy Watkins.
Damian Williams, the
Damian
cast off of the
Williams.
Dolphins.
Yeah, like they sign him up there, but like, can he be an Aaron Rodgers that makes other receivers look good? That type of quarterback,
I think he can, but not to the extent.
but it's not proven yet. We didn't know he didn't prove what he earlier going into last year. That's why he went undrafted in most places. But I think Mahomes again. I think it'll be inflated numbers. He'll still be a tier 1 quarterback because I think he's got that type of ability. But draft wise, he's not going to slide below the second round. ADP wise, again, if you're doing a snake draft, redraft league, let him go down. All right, because the quarterback depth, we'll talk more into the summer months. There's a lot of good QBs to draft. So don't waste a high pick. If someone picks him up early, that's fine. Not your loss, okay? That's that other player's gamble, but I would let him slide down into the middle rounds before you even think about drafting him.
Yeah. All right. Well, we can move on to some impact players here. So the draft is generally something that actually doesn't have a huge impact on fantasy. It's more filling out depth charts, and you got to remember defense is a big part of the NFL. So we don't really get too much to do with fantasy with that, and very rarely do superstars come straight out of the draft and then affect your fantasy team. And particularly this year, that was kind of, I guess, a takeaway we could have had for the overall draft.
That's true, yeah.
There's not really, there wasn't that number one wide receiver, there wasn't that Todd Gurley, that Odell Beckham, that
Ezekiel
Elliott. There just wasn't somebody that you knew was going to step into a role.
Those
or
rookie
Saquon.
wonders,
Saquon was a top 10 or top 5 running back this year, and there's just nobody that's anywhere near that.
No, so we jump right over to impactful wide receivers coming out of this rookie class. And honestly, as we're looking at some of these things, these are flex options to possibly their ceiling might be wide receiver 2s on your roster. Am I right, Sean? You looking at these names, you're thinking none of these guys should be wide receiver 1s.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But they can work themselves, and when I say work themselves, after several weeks, they could have numbers that could reflect a wide receiver 2 or a flex. But Sean, what's your guy? Everybody's favorite darling after the combine. All right.
So, yeah, he was not my darling, actually, to be honest. I didn't think that DK Metcalf, he was the freak in the combine that everybody, shot up to the number 1 wide receiver. And if he was taken high, obviously that helps him because, they put more stock into him. But I didn't see him being that great of a receiver, a pure receiver, like route running. He's something he's struggled with. He's got the measurables, but, a lot of the times you see that not translate. And really the reason I like him as a impact player, now I say this is like, grab him at the end of your draft. He may end up being a waiver wire type of thing. He's not going to be.
Yeah.
He's
He
maybe
will
gonna
be
your-
drafted. He will be drafted.
It'll
That's
be
all.
your 3rd or 4th wide receiver. But I think just because he went to Seattle, that is a void now, which is a piece of news that we forgot to talk about. But Doug Baldwin is now in the news saying that, I don't know if he's personally saying, but they're saying that there's a possibility that he retires.
Yeah, he's done with
because
all his
of
injuries.
all the injuries he's had. And the Seahawks put credence to that when they drafted, I think, 2 or 3 wide receivers. And when you draft someone like Metcalf, he's the type of receiver that in Seattle you're not going to get the yards. That's not what Russell's known for. It's not what the Seahawks want to do. They want to run the ball. So it's all about those touchdowns. So you're talking about comparing it to maybe like kind of like we did with Mike Williams in Seattle. It's on the Chargers. It was like basically almost like a tight end. That's kind of what I see DK Metcalf doing. His ceiling would be that Mike Williams year where he comes up with 10 touchdowns just because Russell Wilson's going to throw a bunch of touchdowns. And they're not all going to go to Tyler Lockett. He's really the only significant piece there now.
Right.
So.
Metcalf, if in traditional leagues, is something that I would put a late flyer in.
Yeah.
Any type of PPR, he's going to, even if you look for the touchdown, that's not going to give you the points consistently to start.
It's like putting a tight end in your wide receiver spot.
He's basically that way. So in a traditional route, I think he's a great flex option. And yeah, when you have a quarterback can scramble forever and a guy that big, that fast to break away, there can be some big yardage touchdowns, but yeah, he's not going to get you, more than 5 catches a game.
I don't like wide receivers or tight ends in Seattle. I avoid that whole team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I got 3 guys I'm going to quickly go over here. N'Keal Harry in New England, just because they need wide receiver options. So I think look at him. He's probably one of the better pass catcher.
He would be my number 1.
Yeah.
If I was, ranking right now rookie wide receivers to pick up in a draft, it would be him because they need a wide receiver, and it's New England. Tom Brady can turn anybody into a superstar.
Yeah, and he's not a burner guy. He's going to be a possession guy, and they need possession. They always got possession guys, right? Since Moss left,
he's going to play that.
No one there.
He's going to play that Hogan role, but he's better than Hogan. So
right, and then we got Hollywood Brown in Baltimore. That's all dependent on the quarterback to get him the ball and how healthy Hollywood comes in there. But he's a big play guy, ready to happen. They need wide receiver help, so he will be put on a platform to succeed. All right, he's just got to finish out the job, but he's definitely coming into a situation where he's going to be draftable in fantasy. I see him as a wide receiver too.
Really,
going in there, if he's coming, if he leaves
like a fantasy wide receiver too, like in the
I think
top
it'll probably
24.
be both. I don't know exactly how they're going to use him in Baltimore, but I can see him as a wide receiver too in fantasy about midway through the year. So he's draftable with that mindset if he can get out of preseason healthy. Because he's already
and
coming
Lamar
off
Jackson can get out of the season healthy.
And then my third one, looking at, I know I put 3 and you put 1 there, but Hakeem Butler is Megatron. He's training with Megatron.
Yeah, this is a guy that's a freak.
And he's so huge. And he's got Murray throwing the ball in an air raid offense by, Ryan Gosling himself, Cliff Kingsbury. All right, coaching there at the Cardinals. I think he'll have the ability. I mean, he's still got Christian Kirk and Fitzgerald there, but he's someone to look up to because you don't know with Fitzgerald's age if he'll really start truly playing the slot. They might put Butler outside because they're looking at rotating receivers like crazy in an air raid offense.
Yeah,
I could break down that offense more, but I can tell you they need all the receivers as possible. They're talking about how they need to get more guys that can improve. All right, impactful running backs for fantasy. Sean, you want to talk about this guy here, or you want me to roll up with him?
Yeah, so there's a couple guys I could talk about. I didn't really go too deep into checking these guys out, but one that really just stuck out to me was what the Rams did with Darrell Henderson. That was something everybody was kind of going to be watching. They just because the Rams obviously have Todd Gurley, as you know, he's your keeper. There's been a little confusion as to whether his injuries are going to affect next season. It's been really, there hasn't been a clear-cut, report on exactly what's going on with him.
They're keeping that quiet.
And, one of the ways you can kind of go around the news and figure out what's going on is by their actions, And what they did is they drafted one of the top-tier running backs in this draft. Some people had him, in their top 3 of overall running backs in this draft. So if they, drafted him high enough and they also held on to Malcolm Brown, like we talked before. They signed that tender to keep him away from, I think it was Chicago.
Yep.
So they're obviously preparing for the fact that Todd Gurley may not be fully healthy next year. So I'm not saying that Todd Gurley's, not going to be what he was, because I still think that's in the realm of possibility.
Yeah.
But if you have Todd Gurley as a keeper, I would be a little more concerned with the fact that they drafted a running back, this high.
He's my keeper as well. We talked about both my keepers so far, and there's worry to be there. And Henderson, he had this crazy stat where he was averaging 12 yards a carry or something because he had the most 40-plus yard runs in college football last year. So he's a big play waiting to happen. I picked Josh Jacobs because I think he's the only starting running back
he's
coming out of this
draft.
rookie class. And I think they're going to feed him the ball there in Oakland. So he'll be – I see this guy picked up in the first 3 rounds. People are going to take flyers because he's the new toy.
Yeah.
They're
going to basically take the Todd Gurley, the Ezekiel Elliott, and put it on him and say he's the next one.
And if they could play call right, Josh Jacobs basically played 1 year of college. I mean, he had to sit back behind a lot of good guys in Alabama, so the tread on his tires are low. So he's got a lot to put out.
That's what concerns him a bit on me. Just I feel like we don't have enough of a sample size.
Yeah.
But again, in the NFL, they kind of become all the same after you get past those elite 10 guys. It's really just about the situation, their line, and what the play calling is if it fits their scheme.
And Jacobs in Alabama had to pass up 2 other NFL-ready running backs to then become RB1 on his own roster. So even though a short tread in there to be that good, to beat out because his teammate got picked up later. I think the other guy's still there in college, but he was the man, and he was very much on the bottom of the depth chart.
He went to the perfect situation. I'm curious, what do you think about Isaiah Crowell? He was kind of their offseason signing. Do you think it's clearly, he's a first-round running back. Do you think it's clearly Josh Jacobs and, Crowell's there as the backup?
I think it's clearly Josh Jacobs with Crowell being a touchdown vulture.
Okay.
That's where it could hurt there. I can see him being more the short yardage goal line guy.
Like Crowell, kind of like a bird, like a vulture.
Crowell, yeah. Nice play on words there. But, Jacobs is typically your 3-down back because that's where he first started jumping out at Bama, was being that guy catching out of the backfield. So he's going to be perfect in today's game.
All right, then go ahead and move us
so they're
past the other positions here.
Impact tight ends have now entered the fantasy draft pool. Before, it's you hardly got – there wasn't much to choose from. So there was this was a deep draft. And I sometimes I'm not quite sure because it was such an unsexy draft with linemen completely filling everything that they were looking for any headliner. So they're like, oh, tight ends, and was talking them up. But I'm buying what they're selling. All right? Between T.J. Hawkinson going to Detroit, they need somebody to catch some red zone touchdowns. And this tight end was a close, compare his comps.
I was going to say, it's a terrible thing to ever do to a person, but
because now he's set up to fail there. But this guy is a blocking tight end that is a good route runner off the line.
Taken in the top 10 of the draft.
Yeah, great catch radius. But so he's got everything there. Yeah, he's set up. People are going to be looking for a lot of things there. But Stafford's a good quarterback. Yeah. All right, that just needs some new toys outside.
I'd say he's instantly a draftable or tight end.
Yeah, he's a tight end one.
It's not like you got to wait, which is weird because usually tight ends take time to develop. In the NFL, they're kind of that position that you don't see till year 2 for sure. But the way they're talking about him and the fact he was taken in the top 10, he's going to be, somebody that you could probably pick up in the later rounds and potentially have, a top 10 tight end for the whole year.
You think he's off the board? It's the first 5 tight ends off the board.
It depends on preseason, really.
Okay.
That's going to depend a lot of this. That's kind of something I meant to say at the beginning of this is, we're going to talk about all this, and it may mean nothing once you get to preseason.
Once we get in.
You really got to see these guys on the field. You got to see kind of the depth chart of what they put them into, and then, if it looks like they're going to be, the only guy on the field when it comes to, running backs and stuff. But
yeah, well, the draft is the most exciting season for every NFL fan because you got hope, unless you're a Giants fan. But the other 31 teams, you're like, yes, we can do so much different before reality hits.
Even us Dolphin fans got hope.
That was I thought the biggest steal of the trade or the biggest steal of the draft was that trade that you guys had. The other 2 tight ends to look at, Noah Fant, his teammate, 2 first-round tight ends.
Another
out of Iowa
that would be terrible for him, but Jimmy Graham is who they compare him to.
And he's at Denver, and he's going to be slotted in as a starter one because Jake Butts and Eisman, whatever that guy's name is, they're not really producing. He's more of a big slot receiver.
Yeah.
Not your blocking tight end, but he's going to be an outside guy. Then Irv Smith Jr., his comp was Ed Reed. Not Ed Reed. Wow. Wrong side of the ball. But you look at Reed out of Washington without all the concussions there. He was a big Jordan Reed was a big fantasy relevant guy when he's not on the IR.
Now, is this just because you're a Minnesota Viking fan?
Well, here's my tag on to that. I think he's draftable as a top 10 tight end if Rudolph gets traded here in the next month or two.
Okay.
They're talking about that because they have to cut some salary, and they can play double tight ends because Irv Smith Jr. could just fill in as a slot receiver, just a big guy. Mm-hmm. Or they just say, Rudolph, thank you for your service. We're going to move you, and we're going to put Irv Smith as a complete tight end there in this new offense. So if he's standalone with no Rudolph, he's going to have the snaps to actually be good. But those are my impact tight ends. Is there anybody else we're missing out of this draft, Sean, we want to review?
Well, only the most, important person that everyone's been talking about for the last 3 months, but Kyler Murray.
What?
I don't know how
who's
we
that
didn't
guy?
lead off
I know,
with
right?
this
We
guy.
did not. QBs, he's the only one.
To me, he's the only one that's worth even talking about for fantasy yet. The other first-round quarterback was Dwayne Haskins, went to the Redskins. He could start week 1. I wouldn't be surprised. But from what I've seen, it doesn't look like, especially that roster they have there.
Yeah, I think Case Keenum's going to start in Washington. They're going to slowly bring Dwayne Haskins around.
It's not somebody that we need to talk about now because he's not going to be a drafted quarterback.
Murray is the perfect QB for this new offense, bringing the air raid back in to the NFL. So he's going to get all the throws. We're just going to worry about if they're interceptions or completions.
Yeah.
Right? Early on. Do you think his rushing numbers will be north of 400 yards this year?
So I think it was you who was telling me this, that it's not really a rushing system. Is that right? The air raid offense? Obviously in college, that's a system that he ran, and he did get rushing yards in college. And mobility is a part of his game. I think, what was the number you gave?
400 yards rushing.
I think it's going to have to be. The biggest question beyond that is health.
Right.
He did seem to be more of a smart runner, that he would go down and get out of bounds. He's not, the Lamar Jackson, the RG3, where you're going to kill yourself. But
he's fast.
Yeah.
He can move.
Yeah.
And
He
he's
can
so
scoop.
quick. Yep, he can scoop.
But, yeah. So, I mean, for me, everybody's going to kind of do the Patrick Mahomes thing to him, I think.
Right.
That they're going to, this is next year's Patrick Mahomes. You can draft him late. You can pick him up off the waiver wire. I think that's a little hard to put on him. He doesn't have the roster or the coaching staff that Patrick Mahomes had. I think he will be relevant because of the rushing.
Right.
I think 400 yards is a doable thing if he stays healthy throughout the year.
Will he be one of the top 12 quarterbacks drafted? So we're looking, we say 12 because that's probably your average leagues are about 12-man leagues, even to 10. Do you think he's somebody's QB1?
I think somebody will draft him as QB1.
I think in every league someone's going to put a flyer on him.
Absolutely, just because of the shine. I mean, he's the new greatest thing. And what he did in college was outstanding. I think that he has a good chance, if he stays healthy, to actually do that. I think he'll be more of a fantasy quarterback than he will be a real life quarterback. I don't think the Cardinals all of a sudden pick up 6 extra wins just because they got Kyler Murray in this air raid offense. Right. They're going to put up a lot of points, so that's going to be good for fantasy. But like you said, there's probably going to be a lot of picks in there.
Yep.
So I think for fantasy, he's probably going to be overrated, but not as overrated as you might think. I think he'll actually be usable in fantasy.
Yeah, and I think David Johnson owners, you have a little life here.
Yeah.
Because David Johnson, probably about 10 to 15 carries between the tackles, but he'll have so many isolation routes on linebackers that it's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun for those owners. So if you're keeping them,
if it works,
keep them around. If it works.
I don't know.
If it doesn't work, David Johnson will be a thing.
He was a top 10 running back last year. Nobody even believed that.
No one believed it, but I think
he's just going to duck it out to David Johnson every play.
Yeah, he's going to get on David Johnson's shoulder so he can see over the offensive line, right?
Check down's a rookie quarterback's favorite target. So
yeah.
I'm just imagining a person who's the biggest lineman in the NFL, like Sue or Donald, who's the Rams guys.
Oh, Aaron Donald.
Aaron Donald.
They're not really known for being giant,
standing next to Kyler Murray. What would that even look like?
I don't know.
Aaron Donald tackling?
Yeah.
Kyler Murray.
It's going to be tough sledding for
remember that picture of Dion Lewis?
Survive that.
Dion Lewis and what's his name? Derrick Henry in practice together would look something like that.
Big brother, daddy and little son.
It's good for Kyler Murray that these quarterback protective rules came in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last
Well,
year,
and
2
yeah,
years
I
ago.
remember Kyler Murray's highlights. I'm a Texas kid, and his Texas high school things, nobody touched him because he was so quick.
Yeah.
And in college, he played 1 year in A&M, and then transferred, sat most of the time, and then played 1 year at Oklahoma. So he has not been rocked as much. So we're gonna see what happens when he goes to a
Only
fast
takes
field.
one.
Takes one hit for quarterbacks, but hey, Russell Wilson's making a living out of it, doing really well.
3 inches
scrambling
taller.
around.
I feel like Russell Wilson is a man.
Yeah, he is a man.
Kyler Murray is like a child. He's
Well,
like
all right.
me. It's like me going to the NFL.
It literally
Kind of,
is.
literally,
you,
yeah.
you are about
Pretty
the
much
height
is.
and size
Yeah.
of Kyler Murray.
Like I would die.
You're considered small at the QB position.
I would die.
Yep.
How long do you think Kyler Murray lasts in the
Like I say,
NFL?
this is the bet we're putting down now.
I say 10 plus years.
Ooh. Okay, so you have a lot of faith in it.
I do. If with the offensive system, I think he can be 10 plus years. Not saying he's going to be started for 10 years, but he'll be around. Hard part is that baseball thing. If he starts sucking in the NFL, you can go straight to the Oakland
Yeah.
A's and make
Why?
a career.
He should, dude.
All right, well, I think that's about all we got for the draft.
Yeah.
For those of you that love the draft, you'll love this part of the episode because it's, fun to go into it, and the other people will be like,
yeah.
this is the draft. I don't even know who any of these people you're talking about are.
Like, where are these guys? We'll go more in depth as training camp gets closer, where these guys stack up to actual proven players
Yep.
with our rankings and advice. But for now, they're just the shiny new toys. Christmas morning, we'll see what comes out. Come around OTAs and in preseason time.
Yep, so thanks for listening, guys.
Like and subscribe.
I agree.